Okay, going to talk a little bit about reactivity, but unfortunately, it's too big of a subject to tackle at one time. But one of the mistakes that I have happen a lot is people trying to force their dog to have physical contact. And in theory, it sounds like a good idea of grabbing the dog and saying, hold still, and muzzle them, hold them down, and have people come and pet them. Meanwhile, the dog is just like, you know, freaking out and stressing out, and it's not learning anything. And the reason why it's not learning anything is the dog has a natural ability of taking pressure, and each dog has a different capping point, which I call a fuse. And when the pressure curls up, if you hit that fuse, it pops, and just like circuit board, it can't work anymore. All that energy it's useless. You have to wait for the fuse to connect so that the energy in the dog and the mind can work. So what a lot of people do is like poor Toby here, he's happy, but the minute that I come a little bit closer to him, he's like, oh, no, no, no. And then he feels like he needs to run and get away from it. And then when the owner grabs him, you're pulling the dog to where it doesn't want to go to, adding more pressure. Even though you're holding the dog and he's like, thank you, it's almost a betrayal because you're like, you're going to deal with this. And holding the dog down, putting a muzzle on him, and then just say, deal with it. It's non-productive because the dog is no longer in control. It's not able to make a good choice. It's learning just to be an ostrich, hold its head in the sand. And a lot of times being taught to not trust the owner, to be more reactive, learn how to dodge quicker, or learning how to fight. So what I like to try and do is explain to people that when my hand's coming in to touch Toby, every inch that I'm coming in is dun dun, more pressure, more pressure, more pressure, more pressure. And then when I go to touch him, more pressure and more pressure and more pressure and more and more and more and more. Um, and at a certain point, Rusty may not only be able to take it like just being able to touch his nose, and anything past that he can't take. So if you're holding Rusty and you're forcing him to have people touch him, you're putting way too much on the dog. So you want to try and teach the dog to get used to human contact, but without pushing the dog to the point that it can't think. So what I try and do a lot of times is I try and teach the dog to come to me. And if that's like 1 cookie, 2 cookies, 3 cookies, 4 cookies. Meaning that the closer the dog comes to me, he's like, this is hard, but this is yummy. Oh, this is even harder, but that's yummy. Oh, this is really hard, but look at those 3 cookies. Oh, and oh, what the hell? Oh. So doing that, the dog is learning to build confidence in coming to me. I'm not going after the dog. So when I'm coming into the dog, that's building pressure. I'm coming one step closer to the dog, coming closer, coming closer, coming closer, coming closer, coming closer, coming closer, coming closer. And this is all the pounds of pressure the dog's feeling, and it wants to run and escape. So by teaching the dog 1 cookie, 2 cookies, 3 cookies, and then a jackpot coming to me, the dog is like, it's not personal. You're not coming to get me. I want that. But I gotta deal with you. Okay, that wasn't bad. Oh, and what the dog is learning how, with its own paws, how to come forward and deal with my presence. In no time am I going to come in and go into the dog to pet the dog. I want the dog to basically understand that the harder the pressure is, the bigger the reward is. So if he's way over here in 1 cookie, 2 cookies, 3 cookies, 4 cookies. If he wants to just stay there, that's fine. He can have 1 cookie all day. But I'm going to keep showing him these piles of cookies that if he could get a little bit closer than there, he could double his amount of rewards. And then the next thing is that when he starts getting to the point where he can come forward into this, and he's like, yeah, that's no problem, then we start to add another layer of pressure, which is basically my body. So I have 1 cookie here, 2 cookies here, 3 cookies here. Then he has a choice of coming in. It's a waiting game, and I understand that. And then he's like, ah! 1, 2, no! 1, 2, but there's so many cookies over there. Ah, I got the cookies and she didn't get me, so maybe. So then we go from there and we teach him we have 1 cookie, 2 cookies, 3 cookies, and we teach him that 1 cookie, 2 cookies, and actually I'd probably put the cookies right there. And that's where he's starting to learn to physically touch me. Because instead of me coming in and putting in 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound, 4 pound, 5 pound, 6 pounds into touching him, I'm putting my hand here, and he's able to go doo-doo-doo-doo, 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 and building confidence on his own so that he can actually get to the point where he can touch me. And when I get to that point, then I can start to put my hand in a position where he has to go underneath me to get the cookies. And when he goes underneath me, he and and he starts to build confidence in being touched. So the pressure of me doing this is the same as him coming in and doing this. The pressure of me doing this is the same as me having him do this. So instead of me touching him, I'm teaching him to touch me. And then learning how to go over me and around me. And no way, shape, or form am I touching him or grabbing him. And so then when I pull back, with him used to that, I can actually come up and have him do this to him. But it's baby steps.